Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Picture the scene with me for a second. It's the morning of August 15th, 2024. The time is exactly 7:30 a.m. At the Red Fort in Delhi, the entire nation of India is totally immersed in this joyous celebration of Independence Day. You've got the Prime Minister raising the tricolor flag, the sky is just echoing with patriotic chants, and literally millions of people are proudly capturing this historic moment on their phones. It's this perfect picture of national pride and comfort. But you know what's really interesting? It's what you don't see. Because just a few days prior to that comfort was almost completely shattered. None of those millions of celebrating people had any idea how close the nation had come to an absolute nightmare.
The crucial number here is 72. Exactly 72 hours before the Prime Minister raised that flag, a massive, unthinkable tragedy was averted. And honestly, the most shocking part about this whole thing? This plot wasn't dismantled by some highly trained spy. It wasn't stopped by an elite intelligence agent or some heavily armed commando. No, it was stopped by a guy named Raghu. Raghu was a poor, completely unsung fisherman from a small, quiet village in Kutch. A man whose name has literally never graced a newspaper headline, but whose single act of immense courage saved millions of lives.
Let's look at this 72-hour critical window and see how this all went down. We're going to flash back to August 12th. At 3 p.m., Raghu sets sail. By 10 p.m., a severe storm hit Sur Creek. Fast forward to August 14th, 2:17 a.m., the targets are finally spotted. And that all leads right up to August 15th, 7:30 a.m., the Red Fort celebrations. Let's break down exactly what happened in that terrifying window.
Part 1. A desperate night at sea. Why was Raghu even out there in the first place? Well, he was driven by a deeply relatable, very human desperation. For 4 straight days, his fishing nets had come up completely empty. At home, things were getting really dire. His sick wife had run out of medicine, his 12-year-old daughter's school fees were months overdue, and his aging mother's medical treatment had been totally halted. The entire weight of his family rested squarely on his shoulders. So at 3 p.m., looking up at the sky and saying a prayer, he took his creaky, aging wooden boat out into the water. He was determined not to come back empty-handed.
A few hours pass, and it's now 10 p.m. Raghu had chased these elusive fish way beyond his usual limits, and he completely lost track of time. Then, the nightmare really starts. A massive lightning strike rips across the sky, followed by this torrential rain and fierce, unforgiving winds. Raghu pulls out his old, broken compass to check his bearings. The trembling needle settles, and his heart absolutely drops. He had drifted perilously close to Sur Creek. For those who might not know, this is a highly sensitive, fiercely contested border area. Out here, a single navigational mistake can easily mean a life sentence in a foreign prison.
Which brings us to Part 2, the suspicious boat encounter. Just as Raghu is about to desperately turn his boat around and get out of there, something catches his eye through the blinding rain. He spots this dim, flickering light in the distance. Instantly, his breath hitches. His very first terrifying thought is that he's run right into a patrol of Pakistani rangers. His heart is pounding, his hands are literally shaking, but he forces himself to reach into his pocket and pull out a pair of old, battered binoculars to get a closer look.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates Raghu's incredibly sharp instincts. Think about the difference. A normal fishing boat in this area, they'd have fishing nets out, the crew would be talking, actively trying to catch fish. But the mysterious boat Raghu is looking at? 0 nets. Instead, he sees 2 large plastic drums heavily concealed under a black tarpaulin. There are 4 men on board, 3 in their mid-20s, and 1 who looks like a 16-year-old boy. And the most chilling detail of all, they are dead silent, just obsessively checking their gear. Raghu instantly puts it together. These aren't fishermen. These are infiltrators using this desolate sea route to sneak into Indian territory.
Now, human instinct absolutely screams at you to run in a moment like this. And Raghu's first thought was to do exactly that, to quietly turn back and save his own skin. But then, he remembered the words of his martyred father. Son, the first guards of the country aren't always soldiers in uniform. Everyday people living on the border like us are also the protectors of this soil. It's incredible, but those exact words gave a poor, terrified fisherman the absolute courage to stand his ground instead of just quietly fleeing into the dark.
So what does he do? He pulls off an absolute masterclass of a bluff. Raghu takes his broken, flickering torch, shines it directly at the mysterious boat, and screams at the top of his lungs, "This is the Indian Coast Guard. Turn back immediately or we will take action." It was a massive, massive gamble. For a few agonizing seconds, the sea was completely silent. But then, the infiltrators' boat slowed down. They actually bought the bluff. Thinking a real patrol was right there, the boat changed direction and melted back into the pitch-black ocean.
But Raghu knew this wasn't over. With Independence Day just 3 days away, it hit him that this stealthy, heavily equipped boat could be the start of another 2611-style terror attack.
That realization kicks off Part 3, the Coast Guard strikes. Raghu didn't just go home and go to sleep. He violently turned his boat towards the shore, fighting this massive storm, towering waves, and blinding rain. His hands were covered in bloody blisters, his lungs were burning, but he didn't stop for a single second. He knew every passing minute was a ticking time bomb for the country. He practically crashed into the Coast Guard post, completely drenched in panning, and detailed exactly what he saw to the stunned duty officer.
The contrast here is just unbelievable. On one side, you have Raghu's gear, a creaking wooden boat, some old binoculars, and a broken torch. And on the other, the immense high-tech power of the Indian Coast Guard. The moment Raghu explained what he saw, the men, the drums, the exact direction they went, the duty officer went dead silent. The commander picked up the phone and just gave a simple, chilling order. Commence operation. Immediately, boats disguised as normal fishing vessels were deployed. They were all networked with GPS trackers and encrypted radios, while high-altitude surveillance drones started scanning the entire Sir Creek area using thermal imaging. The hunt was officially on. The first night passes in this tense, agonizing silence, nothing but the sound of crashing waves. The second night is halfway over. It feels like they might have slipped away. Then, exactly at 2:17 a.m., the silence in the control room is broken. A drone operator shouts, "Sir, movement!" All eyes lock onto the thermal screens. 1, 2, 3, 4 glowing figures appear on the monitors, approaching from the exact direction Raghu had pointed out. The commander simply says, "Execute." Let's look at the Coast Guard trap. They laid out this flawless, four-pronged maneuver. Step 1. 2 disguised boats flank the infiltrators from the left and right, completely cutting off their lateral escape routes. Step 2. A third boat blocks the front, pretending to be a lost fishing vessel just to distract them. Step 3. The fourth boat approaches completely silently from the rear. Before these infiltrators even registered they were surrounded, the Coast Guard descended on them. In a matter of minutes, all 4 were captured. They didn't even have a chance to flee.
Part 4. The terror plot revealed. With the suspects in custody, the Coast Guard finally boarded their boat. And what they found hiding under those black tarpaulins? It sent shivers down the spines of the investigating officers.
The recovered arsenal was absolutely terrifying. We're talking state-of-the-art automatic weapons, dozens of highly explosive hand grenades, untraceable satellite phones, and materials clearly meant for a major strike. The interrogations quickly confirmed everyone's worst fears. This weaponry was destined straight for the Delhi National Capital Region. Their mission was to launch a massive, coordinated terror attack just before August 15th. The objective was chillingly simple: to turn that joyous national celebration of Independence Day into a scene of mass mourning in a matter of minutes.
Which brings us full circle to Part 5, India's Unsung Hero. It's the morning of August 15, 2024. While the TV networks are broadcasting the beautiful Red Fort celebrations, and every news anchor is heaping praise on the bravery of the official security forces, Raghu was just sitting quietly outside his small home. He was busy repairing his battered, creaky wooden boat. Inside, his daughter was running around the courtyard playing with a small paper flag. Raghu just smiled and turned off the TV. He wasn't expecting an award. He wasn't looking for any recognition at all.
But then, a white car pulled up to his house. A Coast Guard officer stepped out, holding a simple box of sweets. He walked right up to Raghu, handed him the box, and delivered this incredibly powerful message. Because of you, millions are safe today. You are not in uniform, but that night you were the first guard of this country. Raghu, with tears welling up in his eyes, looked up at a flag waving in the distance, smiled faintly, and simply replied, "Jai Hind."
It's a story that absolutely gives you goosebumps, doesn't it? And it leaves us with one highly provocative question. How many unsung everyday heroes are quietly protecting our nation while we sleep? People whose names will literally never make it into the history books, but who stand as the very first line of defense between us and total disaster. Keep that in mind the next time you see a flag flying high in the wind. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and Jai Hind.